Prosecutors working for special counsel Robert Mueller now accuse President Trump's former campaign chairman, that's Paul Manafort, of witness tampering. Mueller's team has charged Manafort with 23 counts in 2 different courts, including money laundering and acting as an unregistered foreign agent. Now, he has pleaded not guilty. Manafort is one of 22 people or companies to be charged by the special counsel.
Former Republican House Speaker Newt Gingrich is a frequent critic of Mueller's investigation. In his new book, Trump's America, The Truth About Our Nation's Great Comeback, he writes, quote, "This is rapidly becoming an open-ended hunt for guilt with no regards for the limits of the law." The former speaker joins us this morning. Newt Gingrich, good morning. Let's talk first. We're going to get to the book in just a minute, but let's talk about some of the news we just outlined first. Paul Manafort, President Trump's former campaign manager, now being accused by the special counsel of witness tampering. Looks like he may be going to jail.
Well, look, if it's true, it's a big deal. And I think it's an example of what happens in these kind of cases, where you start way over here with Russia, then you go to a 2005 tax problem, then you go to not, trying to be clever when you're dealing with the FBI, which is always a bad idea. Mm-hmm. And then what you get in trouble over here with no regard for how it started. I mean, people tend to forget this was originally about Russia. Mm-hmm. And we have zero evidence that Donald J. Trump in any way colluded with Russia, which is what this is all about.
But we don't know because the investigation is still underway.
This investigation may be underway for 20 years at the rate Mueller's going. But everything he's doing is about stuff other than Russia. Mm-hmm. I'm just suggesting.
You are a history buff. Mm-hmm. You have written books about history. Let me ask you, the president yesterday broadly declared that he has the absolute right to pardon himself.
He does, and then the Congress has the absolute right to impeach him. And that's what would happen. I mean, if a president was dumb enough to pardon themselves, mm-hmm. that would be such an act, this would be such an arrogant statement of power that the House would probably impeach him within a week and the Senate would convict him.
But why do you think he throws that out there? He says on one hand.
I think Trump learned in New York City media that churning works. Huh. You do something this morning, and by this afternoon you do something else, and by this evening you do something else, and everybody's busy running around chasing each other. And he's done it his whole career, since the 1980s.
How about as a former member of the legislative branch, this idea that as the head of the executive branch, he has total control over any investigation going on. He doesn't have to show up for a subpoena, or he can just fire anybody doing it. Do you buy that idea?
Look, I think even Rudy Giuliani has been very aggressive in defending him, has sort of walked that back a pretty big step.
I think he should.
Well, look, I think if there's a subpoena, it would lead probably to a Supreme Court test. It's never been tested. And the question, which several people have said, who were pretty smart people about this, does Mueller really want to end up in a Supreme Court test that he could lose?
Mueller or the president?
No, Mueller.
Does the president want to be in it?
Well, look, what the president, I think, wants least, and I happen to strongly agree with him, is to end up in a room with Mueller where Mueller and his 15 lawyers, having spent months, remember, we would like Trump right now to be focusing on North Korea. He's got a summit next week. Mm-hmm. Well, Mueller and his team ain't focusing on North Korea. So they're going to amass this huge mound of data. And they're going to walk in a room and say, now, on page 1306, do you remember doing this? And if he makes any mistake, that becomes grounds for either obstruction or perjury.
Is it a problem for him to sit with Mueller when many believe that he has trouble with the truth, or that he has trouble remembering facts, or that he has trouble changing the truth?
Look,
isn't that a danger for him?
Yes, and for this reason. Trump is a storyteller. He's an entertainer. He's a guy who, and that's who he really is as a person. And his whole career he's been like this.
But he's president of the United States. Shouldn't the president of the United States tell the truth?
He should tell the truth, but he also likes to tell stories. And sometimes his stories stretch things.
But isn't the question really at the center of all of this? Because I went back and spent some time with the Newt Gingrich of 1998, who I used to cover. Yeah. He used to say two things. Above all, is the president above the law? And when people complained about the investigations into Clinton, you would say, look, just be patient. Everything else is noise. Aren't those two things to live by now, basically?
Absolutely. And as I said a while ago, I don't think he can pardon himself. I think that would lead to a reaction in the Congress that would be devastating. I think he should tell the truth. But I also think, and I say this from my own experience, because I once had an independent counsel who had 1 million pages of my material, and I watched what happened to Scooter Libby and other people. You have to be extraordinarily careful. And the most they should do is agree to written interrogatories where if Mueller wants to submit in writing what questions he wants answered, the president should then submit in writing his answers. But to get into a room where you have this, again, just Trump's personality, I would counsel him, I'm not a lawyer, but I would counsel him to be extraordinarily cautious about ending up in a room where you have 15 hostile lawyers all trying to be able to play gotcha.
Can I ask this question? You talk about he's a storyteller. In your book, you make a very strong case the president is reconnecting a certain part of America with American values.
Right.
Again, I've covered you. I read and then saw Rendezvous with Destiny, which is about Ronald Reagan. You use two words to describe Reagan: character and integrity. You can't find those words in this book about this president. Isn't that a challenge when you're talking about connecting America with core values? Aren't integrity and character core values?
Look, they're totally different people. I mean, I think
shouldn't a president have those core values?
I think this president has enormous focus on big things and has been very consistent, whether it's Iran or it's North Korea. Or we now have the lowest black unemployment rate in history. And I think it's a function of his policy.
Does he have character and integrity, to John's point?
Yeah, I think he does, but I think he's very different. And I think he's a businessman. He's not in the business that you and I are in, or the business. He's not a politician in a traditional sense. But
as a person who's planting a flag for American values, and that we all salute, as you've described so well about Ronald Reagan, isn't that part of the job?
It is part of the job, and I would suggest to you that he has done a great deal to rebuild a belief that America matters. And that he actually pretty aggressively fights for what he thinks is America, and that his voters, maybe not the news media, but his voters resonate to what they see as his passion for their future.
All right.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker
Gingrich, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.